the left has learned a sweet trick to wrong-foot their political opponents and fool the public. They've learned to give whatever divisive, radical program or group they're pushing a wholesome name nobody could possibly object to. Then they proceed to ram through highly contentious and unpopular policies while labelling any dissenting voices as racists and bigots. Groups such as Black Lives Matter and Antifa, which stands for anti-fascist, have names we all agree with, but their violent, divisive antics are a different matter entirely. Indeed, the way they behave is fundamentally at odds with their virtuous-sounding names. Closer to home, programs such as safe schools and respectful relationships sound wonderful until you take a closer look at some of the detail and the radical gender theories being pushed in the name of diversity. Victoria's so-called anti-conversion legislation, which was passed earlier this year, is another case of the name not matching the detail. Of course, any reasonable person is against gay conversion therapy, but the laws go so much further than that, including redefining gender identity, which has far-reaching consequences. There was a good reason why so many feminists who believe in biological fact were against the legislation. The left have also been hugely successful in redefining words for their political advantage. Right now, you can have mere disagreement with their worldview become a hate crime. It's vitally important for Conservatives to stop ceding linguistic territory to the left. Trans activists have successfully silenced many of their critics by labelling any dissent as bigotry. Prominent individuals from feminist Germaine Greer to comedian Barry Humphries to author J.K. Rowling have been maligned as transphobic for comments that the overwhelming majority of the population would deem perfectly acceptable and mainstream. This week, J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter author, spoke out about the tactics of trans activists who are trying to silence her. She has been sent an avalanche of death threats and her home address has been made public. She had to call the cops in when protesters turned up to her family home. She posted, "I've now received so many death threats I could paper the house with them, and I haven't stopped speaking out. Perhaps, and I'm just throwing it out there, the best way to prove your movement isn't a threat to women is to stop stalking, harassing, and threatening us." Now, personally, I'm happy for any person to identify as whatever gender they want. That doesn't mean I support women's only spaces, women's sport, and women's rights being compromised in the name of trans rights. Right now, in the name of inclusion, we are being asked to submit to a toxic, unforgiving woke ideology. Even the term women has been deemed non-inclusive. We've seen everyone from health authorities to corporate brands refer to women as birthing bodies and vulva owners and menstruators and other terms that reduce womanhood to a bodily part or function. The trans-inclusive language used to describe women can sometimes sound decidedly misogynistic. If you don't push back against this madness, then don't complain when it becomes the norm, and we're all expected to list our pronouns on our business cards and emails, or be looked at as a bigot. One woman who has fought valiantly against the excesses of this ideology is author Abigail Shrier, and she'll be joining us in just a few minutes to talk about the way activist teachers are influencing students into this ideology.